and stability in the foreign exchange market. The current account deficit actually improved to 3.6% of GDP in the 12 months leading to December 2024 from 4.4% of GDP in a similar period of 2023, mainly due to increase in the export of goods as well as increased remittances. So I'm sure you understand what balance of trade means. That is the difference between exports and exports. And because we are a net importer, if that ratio declines, then it means that we are doing relatively well. Strong diaspora remittances. Remittances increased by 16.7% to US dollars 4,872 million. That is 4.872 billion US dollars. That you can translate to about 630 billion Kenya shillings in the 12 months to November 2024, compared to 4.175 billion in a similar period in 2023. So we have seen remittances increasing exponentially. Remittances increased forex inflows into the country, with some going to investment, while others are supporting household consumption of our people. The other macroeconomic factor of note is stability in exchange rates. The exchange rate to the dollar strengthened significantly to 129.4 per dollar. That is 129.4 shillings by end of January 2025, from 160.8 to the dollar by end of January 2024. This rate has since stabilized in the region of 128 to 130 shillings to the dollar. The other factor of note, or macroeconomic factor of note, is our strong official foreign exchange reserves. I wish to state and report to the Kenyan public that our official foreign exchange reserves, as at the end of December 2024, was at 10 billion US dollars, which is 5.1 months of import cover. So this provides adequate buffers and gives market confidence. And you can see that is one of the reasons why we were rated from negative to positive recently by Fitch and Moody's. So it is crucial that this macroeconomic performance must then therefore translate into liquidity. That is a question that many Kenyans have been asking, that we are not feeling the money in our pockets despite the fundamentals showing very positive signs. Bank lending is one channel through which the monetary base would expand and liquidity would be realized in an economy. So given the outcome of inflation, which is now at about 3.3%, the latest data, Central Bank of Kenya has gradually eased monetary policy by lowering the central bank rate from 13% in August 2024 to presently 11.25% in December 2024, and finally down further in February to 10.75%. In addition, Central Bank of Kenya, in the February 2025 Monetary Policy Committee meeting, reduced the cash reserve ratio by 100 basis points to 3.25% from 4.25% to lower the cost of funds for banks. This will further support lowering of lending rates and support growth of credit to the private sector. I would pause there and add that when you reduce cash reserve ratio, it simply means that you are reducing the requirements of how much balances commercial banks need to maintain at the central bank. That would therefore, if you lower it, it means you are releasing more money for banks to loan to the Kenyan public. And that has the effect of improving liquidity. I am informed that this reduction alone would make over 50 billion shillings available to our commercial banks to lend to Kenyans, private businesses and individuals to carry out business, expand job opportunities, and therefore improve the general liquidity in the economy. Interest rates have declined in line with the easing of this monetary policy. The interbank rates declined to 11.2% by January 2025. Compared to the same period in 2024, that is January 2024, it was at 13.7%. So it has come down by 2.5% and has remained within the prescribed corridor around the CBR. Coming to fiscal discipline of the national government, I want to report here today that because of the discipline, the fiscal discipline that the government has imposed, this has resulted into, one, the 91-day Treasury bill rates have declined to 9.11% in February 2025. In fact, for a very long time, the government papers have never traded at a single-digit percentage. For the first time in a long period, we can see now 91-day Treasury bills trading at 9.11%. This has come down from 16.1% in January 2024. The 182-day Treasury bills rate has declined to 9.85% in February 2025 from 16.2% in January 2024. I would further report that the 364-day Treasury bills rate has also declined to below 11% from 16.4% over the same period. So with the strong easing of monetary policy stance, credit to the private sector is expected to recover as lending rates decline. And therefore that leads me to report the following: that with the easing of CBR, that is the CBR rates, to 10.75% in February 2025, and reduction in the cash ratio requirement to 3.25% from 4.25%, commercial banks have this week demonstrated lowering of interest rates with higher percentages. Several banks have already reduced their best lending rates. For example, Cooperative Bank of Kenya has reduced its rate from 16.5% to 14.5%. Kenya Commercial Bank has reduced the rates from 15.6% to 14.6%. Equity from 17.3% to 14.3%, among others such as ABSA, NCBA, and many other commercial banks. It is expected that more banks will follow suit. I want to encourage banks to continue lowering interest rates so that more Kenyans can be able to access credit to expand our economy. The reduction of interest rates charged by banks to the private sector is likely to expand credit to private sector, encouraging investments, creating jobs, and improving the general liquidity in our economy. I want to say something about capital markets developments. Notable improvements as investors' activity at the Nairobi Securities Exchange increased. Foreign direct investment flows have increased and shown clear signs of improvement. The Nairobi Securities Exchange has shown demonstrable improvement in investor activities, signaling increased foreign direct investment flows into the country. For example, the NSE 20 share index improved to 2,162 points in January 2025 compared to 1,509 points in January 2024, while market capitalization also improved to 1,983.7 billion from 1,440 billion over the same period. So due to the easing of the food and energy prices as a result of various government interventions, we have also seen a reduction in inflation from a high of 9.6% in October 2022 to the latest 3.3% in January 2025. At the end of 2024, ladies and gentlemen, through the tax laws amendments, the government systematically set in place measures to ease off the burden on the payslip. And I want to emphasize this because there has been a lot of discussion and discourse and talk out there on the issue of payslips. I want to just demonstrate to you that the government is committed towards also addressing the pressures and pains that Kenyans are complaining about. This government is therefore for all Kenyans and continues to expand her implementation of policies meant to promote liquidity. The last point that I will mention is with regards to the pending bills, because this is another area that has led to lack of liquidity in our economy or depressed liquidity in the economy. So the issue of pending bills has persisted despite various efforts and committees established to address it. The failure to settle these bills in a timely manner has significantly affected the financial stability of businesses, particularly micro, small and medium enterprises, and government image has also been hurt. The urgency to resolve pending bills stems from their adverse effects on businesses, the economy and public confidence in our government. Delays in pending bill payment have led to reduced profitability, increased costs of capital, liquidity constraints and disruptions to operations. Therefore, addressing pending bills is crucial for releasing liquidity, enhancing economic performance, and restoring confidence, particularly among MSMEs. The National Treasury and Economic Planning put in place a committee with very specific terms of reference. The committee has made significant progress, and in the interim, some of the findings or causes of pending bills have been identified, and which include, I will just mention three. One is mismatch between the budget and revenue budgeted by the government on an annual basis. Two, lack of exchequer once approved budget has been executed as a result of mismatch cited above. And finally, the budget cuts during the fiscal year while entities have committed their budgets. The committee has also identified some challenges, such as that some of the pending bills or claims from sugar companies, those relating to employee and labor, require verification at premises of the respective entities due to bulky nature of the supporting documents. The team is about to conclude its work, and to facilitate this, there was an extension of time. It has, however, made significant progress and has also made some interim recommendations to that end. And these include that the government should endeavor to budget within its means. 2, fast-track transition to accrual accounting. 3, implement public investment management regulations to the latter. 4, implementation of e-procurement to ensure all documents are captured electronically. 5, need to negotiate penalties and interest on pending bills in respect of arbitral and court awards. And 6, prioritize settlement of bills related to MSMEs, especially those of businesses owned by women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Injection of monies via the payment of these pending bills will, without doubt, ease things for the Kenyans who we serve. This is why, as the year rolls out in earnest, Kenyans must know that the government has their backs. We are not oblivious to your realities. I want to just hasten to add that the government is working on how to implement the report of this committee to ensure that pending bills are settled. It is not something that is going to be settled in a bullet, because you know we also have fiscal constraints. But I will tell you that the government has already given the National Treasury through the Cabinet okay or green light to come up with a strategy on how to settle pending bills. You will shortly hear from the National Treasury on how we are going to settle the pending bills as soon as practical. Thank you very much, and that is the end of my statement. So So maybe we open it up for questions, unless my PSS, if there is anything to add. Maybe I would give PS National Treasury. You know, I'm just the spokesman of this ministry, but the people who do the work are behind me. I do very little. I only communicate. So I would want to ask PS in charge of National Treasury maybe to take a minute or two to say something that I might have forgotten, or even to expound further on what I've said. And I also have my planning guru here, the PS Economic Planning, Mr. James Muhati will also have a minute or two. Yes.
Thank you, Waziri. I really don't want to add to what you have said, just to indicate that as a team that has been at the National Treasury for the last more than 2 years, we have come out of the worst, in our view. And the progress that the CS has indicated to you is something we continue to see. In fact, this year we have just started very well, and we have seen KRA perform well in terms of meeting its targets. And right now, the macroeconomic environment is stable. You have seen GDP remains at one of the highest in the world, because world growth rate is around 3%, sub-Saharan Africa is around 3.7%, and ours is at around 5%. We have a diversified economy and resilient. And that's why we always come out of the worst, even when we have shocks. So assuming we don't have any other shocks coming soon, we think that we will continue doing well, and we seek the support of Kenyans in the journey towards ensuring that we have a stable economy that provides for jobs and the rest. So instead of adding more, maybe we give you the chance to ask questions, and then we can help our CS to answer the questions. But maybe, Muhati, you could just add your views maybe on inflation. If you have numbers, what do we see, which areas have come out in terms of cost reduction?
Thank you very much, CS and PS. I think from the economic planning, we can also assure Kenyans that we are very much committed to be able to ensure that our plans are seamless and are properly aligned to the budgets and the available revenue as well. As you are aware, we are also mandated with the responsibility of focusing on the quality of data, which informs most of the policy decisions through the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. As you have heard, most of the indicators that have been shared together with us as a result of what we have been doing in the State Department for Economic Planning. On matters inflation, probably just to indicate, as I think CS has mentioned, and I will not be able to repeat, but for the benefits of Kenyans, is to tell you that now, for example, if you look at the cost of living, looking at the basket of goods, maybe if I can pick about 3 of them, we can be able to see that in January 2024, a kilogram of sugar was costing 209.55 shillings. But now it is at 161 and 34 cents. This is about a decline of 23%. Maize flour was at 175. This is average, 175 shillings, but it's now at 161. When we look at the kerosene, a liter of kerosene in last year, same time in January, was about 195 shillings. But now it is 152, which is a decline of about 22%. Petrol, a liter was 207.97, but now it's at 177 shillings. And a liter of diesel was 197 in January 2024, and now it's at 167.84 cents. These are just among the benefits and the effects and the impacts of the policies that the National Treasury is committed to implementing, as has been articulated by the CS. Thank you very much.
So what we'll do, I'll take some questions, which some I will delegate to my principal secretaries. In fact, even my DGs, if there is a question that I think one of them would address more sufficiently, I will invite them. But at the same time, I'll give them the cover, because I am the spokesperson. But now, because this is just the first among many that we will have, if we can just take maybe 4 questions, I would appreciate. So you'll introduce yourself and the media house, or even if you are general public, you'll tell us you're general public. But I think I'll go for the media. I'll start with you. Your hand was up first. Just give it to him. Then I'll come to you second, 3, 4. Can I see any lady's hand, please? A lady? Yes, I'll give you.
Thank you. My name is John Yorino from the City Mirror. Kenya Power has been recording some nice profits. Is there any gains in terms of reducing energy costs, especially for steamer, in our households and the industry? Number 2, with respect to all these incentives, do you have any data showing new production lines being established in the country with respect to creating gainful employment? And if there are any, what are the numbers in the last 12 months?
Question I think I'm asking on behalf of many Kenyans is, this year, should we expect a finance bill? And if not, how does government plan to finance a 4.1 trillion budget, or even plug the deficits thereof, given that we are seeing other subtly introduced taxes and levies coming in through the ministries and the MDAs? Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana CS. I'm Victor Madala from the Star newspaper. My question is around...
I don't think I gave you the mic. Oh, okay. I actually indicated he was second, third, fourth in the lady. If you want me to indulge you, I will. But you must.
Well, hello. My name is Linda Koske from K24 TV. Bwana CS, you talked about... you touched slightly on the dwindling payslip, and I bet everyone was listening to it and listening keenly. But we really wanted to know the tax policies that you're talking about, because you just mentioned that the government is putting in place measures to ensure that this is tackled. But really, Kenyans really want to know how you're going to go about this to cushion them from further raid of the payslip.
Okay, thank you, Waziri. My name is Peter Mboru from Nation Media Group. 2 questions. The IMF program is coming to an end this year, and it has been crucial in the budget support previous years. What is the plan by the government? Is there an extension? If there is, what are we looking at? Number 2, we are expecting a 4.1 trillion budget in the coming year. We are already struggling in the current year. The CS says KRA is meeting targets, but that's not true. It missed about 163 billion shortfall 6 months to December. So how are you planning to plug? Sorry, the revenues to December. Yes, 163 billion. It's okay. So the question there is, what is the plan to implement this 4.1 trillion budget? Of course, in keeping in line with the President's promise that we want to live within our means. Thank you.
Yes, the gentleman. Then I come back to you for the final question.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Zakaria Chege from the General Public. I have 3 questions. One, I will direct it to Mr. Waziri. Yes, pardon?
You make them too?
Okay, sure. Number 1, if I can make it right, you said that from the last year, the GDP dropped from 5.2 to 4.6, if I'm correct. And my question is, what is the Treasury doing to make that GDP to drop substantially? Number two, I will direct it to the PS economic planning. We know everything is about money. So what is the economic planning with respect to the economic advisor to the president, who is Jonathan D? I know you know him, and maybe you guys do something about that. So what is, my question is, the economy, according to the statistics that the Waziri has given, he's saying that the economy is doing really well. And he has actually given us an example of sugar and other subsidies that are really doing well in terms of the prices going down. So my question is, what is the economic planning doing about the economy? Because I feel the government is not giving us that opportunity for the economy to grow. The economy is not economing, if I can say that. If I may, please, Mr. Waziri, I'm sorry you said I was limited to only 2 questions. Allow me to say this. You also touched... Yes. That is Mr. Waziri speaking. Thank you so much. Mr. Waziri, you said that the government, or rather let me say about the National Treasury, has given that urge to bank loans, to give loans to the Kenyans. But from where I stand, 25% of Kenyans who take loans, they end up being put to CRB. And if they end up being put to the CRB, the loan will not end up being paid, and they'll drag the economy down. So what is the Treasury doing about that to make sure that those loans and the economy, the money flow is coming down, as they said, with the president is from up there to Mamboga. Thank you so much.
I hear you very well. Yes, the last one. My friend, please. Oh, you have moved? Okay. You are being strategic, eh? Thank you.
Executive orders by the U.S. President Donald Trump. We've seen some companies already, NGOs, informing their employees that there is no jobs. What will maybe has the National Treasury evaluated the overall implication of those orders to our economy? Thank you.
Thank you. So I will ask my PS National Treasury just to note that you will address the question of IMF program coming to an end and what we are likely to do. That answer I know is there. James, I'm sure you got your question very well, but even the others that I'll take, if my PSS will feel free to chip in when I give them the platform so that they can improve on my answers. On the issue, the first one by George Oweno, you've asked a question around Oredo. Thank you. So, George, you asked about Kenya Power and Lighting Company, that it has been showing profits. Is this likely to be passed to the general public? Yes, this should be passed to the general public in terms of reduced tariffs. And George, if you are keen, you'll realize that the electricity bills, from the reports I have been going down. But if that is not sufficient enough, the government will take measures to pass the benefits to the consumers, because cost of energy, it's a concern of government to lower the cost of energy to help economic growth. You have asked me whether we have seen improved production in the country, creating more jobs. I will tell you that the answer is yes and the answer is no. We have not seen a lot of expansion in the job market as we would want to see. Why? Because extension of credit to the private sector has been depressed almost throughout the year 2024. And you can see clearly from the data that that extension of credit contracted instead of expanding by 1.4%. The measures that we have taken will definitely allow crowding in of private sector so that private sector can borrow from banks, invest, expand, and create more job opportunities. So we are likely to see the benefits of reduced interest rates in the coming months. Brian Otieno, do we expect a finance bill? Yes. Simply put, it is a constitutional requirement. You know, many Kenyans have been asking why we must always have a finance bill. As a matter of fact, it is provided under Chapter 12 of our Constitution that every year we must prepare a finance bill. What is not a must is to have a finance bill with increased rates of taxation. So no one says that that finance bill must always have increase in our taxes. It can have a decrease, it can remain the same, but we will have to produce a finance bill. However thin, it may even be the size of this, my hand, so long as you have a finance bill to meet the constitutional requirement. So that going forward, and we have started public engagement, you will see. And you asked how we will finance the 4.2 trillion. There is also a misconception in this country that you need a new finance bill all the time to finance the budget. That is not true. Even without a finance bill, we have tax rates that are obtaining. Finance bill only vary the rates, change them, increase, reduce. But we already have a law in place. We have a legal framework for all taxes. So we can use the same tax rates to raise revenue to finance this budget. And by the way, if you look at our projected revenue for this year, the coming year 2025-26, you will see that we are more realistic in our revenue collection. The figure that was provided earlier, especially on ordinary revenue, of 3 trillion and 18 billion, has since been revised downwards to 2 trillion 835 billion. So that shows you that the Treasury is walking the talk. We don't want to just say that we have been over-projecting revenue without taking action. We have taken action. Even in the supplementary budget that is going to Parliament, you will see that we have revised downwards revenue projection to reflect on the reality. Linda Koskea is asking me about the payslip and the tax policies that are being taken or implemented to help cushion Kenyans. Linda, if you are keen enough, when we took the tax laws amendment bill in Parliament, one of the objectives of that tax laws amendment bill was to give some reprieve to salaried Kenyans. And that is why I was very unhappy with people who are distorting facts and inciting Kenyans against that bill, because it was helping cushion Kenyans. If you take, for example, your employment, the contribution to housing levy, contribution to SHA are now allowable for tax purposes. So you don't double tax those amounts. You are saving basically what you were contributing before to those two institutions is saving you at least about 30% for those who are earning salaries of about 38,000 and above. So we will still take other measures that we think would help Kenyans have more money in their pockets. But already there are steps that we took. Now your pension, if you are retiring, you will take your pension home gross. It will not be taxed. So that, to me, is positive. Those are steps that we took in December to cushion Kenyans. So contrary to the perception out there that we were bringing taxes that would burden Kenyans, we brought those proposals which were making Kenyans have more money in their pockets. A question from Mburu was largely on IMF, which my peers will respond to. You are doubting whether KRA has been meeting targets. It is true that in the first 6 months, KRA did not meet the targets. More particularly July, August, September. And also we had a problem in November, but in October, KRA met the target. In December, we didn't meet the target, but the targets were way very high. January have shown very positive signs. It is not true that we didn't meet the target by 160, something that was mentioned. The target, we didn't meet target, especially on ordinary. The total revenue target, we missed by 90 billion for the first 6 months. But we hope that this next 6 months we will not miss any target. Zakaria, GDP dropped from 5.2 to 4.6. Now that is growth, not GDP falling. It's simply saying that in 2023, GDP grew by 5.2%, meaning it increased by 5.2. In 2024, it increased with 4.6, which is lower than 5.2. And we have explained, or have explained rather, why that was so. The civil unrest for about 3 months, you don't expect the economy to grow when people are all over in the streets. People are not doing businesses. So that contributed to that. And that is simply the reason. Economic planning will respond to you. Banks to give loans. Defaulters. One of the ways of reducing defaulting, there are two, in my view. One, reasonable interest rates charged by banks. The moment banks start lowering interest rates, you reduce the rate of default. Two, the government, which is the single consumer of goods and services, must pay for goods and services supplied to government. So we should not have pending bills. That is why there's a deliberate deliberate steps being taken by government to make sure that we don't accumulate further and even settle the historical pending bills. On the issue of USA and the new president, which is the last one that I'll take, every country acts in their best interests. The US and the government of US will act in what they consider is in their best interests. It is still not very clear the policies and what the US government wants to implement and the cuts. But we are prepared as a government that should the cuts affect some critical services, especially health and agriculture, then we will have to realign our budgets in a way that would help sort out or plug the hole that will be left. It will be difficult. It's not only Kenya which will be affected. US is the world's largest economy. Whatever they do affects all of us. So this is not going to be a Kenya problem. It will be a global problem, but domestically, we must be sufficiently prepared and respond accordingly to make sure that we mitigate the possible effects of those decisions and actions. Otherwise, allow me again to invite PS National Treasury to pick up from where I've left.
I think I will just give some statistics, especially for KRA performance, just for your note. In July, we had a target of 234 billion. We collected 199. So we had a deficit of 35 billion. In August, we had a target of 198 billion. We collected 173. So we missed the target by 25 billion. So you can see the months that we had issues, July and August, we lost 60 billion. And September, which is normally a tax month with a higher target of 247 billion, we collected 236 billion, leaving a gap of only 11 billion. Then October, there was a target of 201 billion, and KRA managed to collect 207 billion. That means it overperformed by about 6.7 billion. In November, it missed by 10 billion. In December, it missed by 16.5 billion. And this January, which I referred to when I talked about earlier, our target was to raise, we were to raise, actually, let me not go through all that. We were to raise 209, but we collected 206, missing by 3.5 billion. And this was because of domestic taxes. There was a change in the tax laws that now require that you pay, if you are collecting excise tax, you have given 5 days instead of 24 hours. So because of that, the money that would have been collected in January now has to be collected in February. Otherwise, this month of January, KRA would have met the target. I just wanted to correct that. Then on the issue of Kenya Power, I also want to add to what CS says, that before, when we started the reforms, Kenya Power was in a bad situation. And the aim was to restore medium-term profitability. So by end of 2022, the liquidity gap that Kenya Power had was 74 billion. Through the reforms that we have undertaken, the gap now is at 18 billion. So, and you have seen the results for Kenya Power. They have recorded 9.9 billion shillings as surplus after tax. And this is just half year. That means if they double, we could get about 18, which will close the gap that we still have, that liquidity gap that we had. If we do that, that means now the consumers can begin to enjoy the profitability that will come. But already consumers are benefiting from the progress made on the macroeconomic stability, especially on the exchange rate, having been brought down from around 160 to 129 over the last almost 1 year. And so consumers, the pass-through effects must be that the bills now must be much better than they were earlier. I want to now talk about the IMF program. The IMF program was approved by the board in April 2021 in the previous government. And the funding was about $2.3 billion. And the main aim of that program was to ensure we do fiscal consolidation, because our debt had been rated high risk. Remember 2013, we had a low risk. By 2018, we had gone to medium risk. And by 2020, we were at high risk. So this program was meant to address debt vulnerabilities, that we reduce debt growing. So the idea was it has to be a revenue-driven fiscal consolidation, meaning we focus more on revenues. And so the program had nine reviews. And when we were in the 5th review, we got a new addition called RSF, Resilient Sustainability Facility, which is focusing on climate. So the whole amount of IMF program now moved from $2.3 to $4.2 billion. We have implemented the program, and you may be aware the board approved both the 7th and 8th review. And now we are remaining with only about $800 million in the 9th review. And that 9th review is yet to come, because we expect the program to end in April. Our intention is not to leave a gap. IMF program is important for us, and the reforms that we continue carrying are our own reforms. And so our desire is that we continue discussing to go into a new program with the IMF. So we will brief you at the appropriate time when we have had discussions with the fund. We are already engaged, but we will brief you more once we have progress made. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CS and PS. I think, my friend, your question is very wide. But if you look at what the National Treasury and Economic Planning is doing now, what we've been taken through by the CS and the PS and the teams here, this is basically what is happening in what you are calling the economy. You are not seeing the economy, right? So this is actually that side of it in terms of what exactly is happening based on the interventions that the government is making in the various aspects of the policy. Now, regarding what we do, I just want to answer you maybe in a minute. One is that we set the targets. We set the objectives of what we want to achieve as a country, as an economy. You are aware about the Vision 2030 that was launched in 2008. Part of the targets in that vision was that we would want to grow, to move Kenya from a lower income country to a middle-income country, whereby now the standards of living has improved, the per capita income, our rates in terms of mortality and so on have improved. So this is where we are already, this is where we are as we speak right now, that Kenya has already, for example, attained a middle-income country. That means then that when you look at the hard work that the team behind you is doing, is that then we are better off. We then lose on a number of other concessions and grants that we get, because then we need to be self-sufficient in terms of our planning. So that's just an example of one of the targets that we set. Coming to this particular time, as a government, there are 5 key objectives that have been set under what we call the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. And these are, among the 5, is one, for example, is to lower the cost of living. So when we focus on lowering the cost of living, the question we ask ourselves then, what is it then, what are the interventions, what are the activities and programs that we need to have so that we can lower the cost of living? Number 2 is to create jobs or employment. As it is right now, if you look at the statistics, you can be able to see the number of jobs that we are creating in the economy. We come up with what we call the long-term plans, medium-term plans, like the 5-year plan, which now we have used the current objectives of this government to be able to accelerate the objectives of the growth of this particular economy. So we set the objectives, and then we measure, we are able to measure how we are doing through what we would call monitoring and evaluation. We look at the impact of our achievement and some of the projects that we have made, and then we also focus on reporting to be able to share or report on what is happening in the economy. I'm sure you are aware of, for example, the economic survey. On a monthly basis, we produce some data, statistics on the CPI, on what we're doing. On a quarterly basis, we have the Kenya Economic Report, which looks at the various policy interventions that the government is making and how the government is doing. And of course, through what the CS and the team has done today, I'm sure we are aware, we've been made aware of how we are doing. Thank you.
So I think with all that, and as I promised, and we promised, my team has promised you, we will be engaging periodically. This is just the first among a series of engagements we'll have, briefings. This will be a tradition. This will not be a one-off thing. So you can hold your horses. Any other issues will be raised when we next appear here. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless Kenya.
Hello, welcome to PLG Politics, Leadership and Governance. You're watching Masha Television Kenya. My name is Rita Kering. We're here to talk about the politics, leadership and governance of the country, and joining us to unpack the political scene in the country is none other than a communication and political expert, Bushabi Jr. Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hello too, and I'm glad to be here. Yes.
Well, you can engage with us via our studio number 0746999841. Feel free to text, call, or WhatsApp that number. National Assembly Speaker Moses Masika Wetangula on Wednesday reaffirmed that the Kenya Kwanza Alliance is the majority coalition in the National Assembly, despite previous court rulings that challenged this status. According to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Kenya Kwanza has 165 members as opposed to Azimio's 154 members. The ruling follows an early decision made on October 6, 2022 where Wetangula initially declared Kenya Kwanza as majority coalition, but the court said that the Azimio coalition is the majority. This is the topic that we are going to start off this discussion here on PLG on the ruling made by the National Assembly Speaker Moses Masika Wetangula. Bushebi Jr., the court judgment declared opposition chief Raila Odinga's Azimio as the majority in the National Assembly, yet the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula ruled otherwise. Why is this a controversy? Maybe just paint a picture to our viewers of the fundamental conflict here.
First, we shouldn't have gotten there where courts have to be involved in this matter. The truth is, Kenyan politics is based on interest and betrayal. And wherever you mention interest and betrayal, you have to factor in suspicion and cold wars that take place during the political process. It is not the High Court that declared Azimio the majority in Parliament. It is the people of Kenya. Because the majority is declared at the ballot, right after elections, when all members of Parliament have been announced as winners. You do your calculation and you realize who the majority are and who the minority are. So Parliament is a product of the Constitution, and the Constitution mandates the people of Kenya to elect their representatives. So when people elect their representatives, the numbers show up, who the majority are and who the minority are. As of 2022, after elections, the majority, Kenyans voted in the majority as Azimio and the minority as Kenya Kwanza. The root of controversy comes from the manipulation and the political games that took place right after, when the Kenya Kwanza coalition realized that they didn't have numbers in Parliament, and for good reasons, but not rightfully legal reasons. So that is when the speaker, coming from the executive side, that is Kenya Kwanza, decided to announce whatever he announced, that Kenya Kwanza is the majority after the supposedly movement of some members of Parliament from one party to another without any documented evidence of the same. So it is just a charade that Kenyans are being treated to, which, if the Constitution is followed to the letter, you'd realize that this is a non-issue. But the Parliament or the Speaker is basing his arguments on the fact that the Parliament has the jurisdiction and the Speaker has the jurisdiction of declaring who the majority are and who the minority are. Like he said, it is not the mandate of the court to declare who the majority are and the minority are. But the truth of the matter is, the majority is Azimio and the minority is Kenya Kwanza. But if you look at what is going on and whatever took place there after the movement of some members, if you bring in that argument, the same thing applies to Kenya Kwanza. Right now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has moved out with so many MPs.
Right.
So if Kenya Kwanza is to bring in that argument, then Azimio will bring that up to counter whatever they are saying. So at the end of the day, it's a parallel line two parallel lines, one for Azimio and one for Kenya Kwanza that will never meet until 2027. So it's just a charade that Kenyans are being treated to. But if the constitution is just followed to the letter, and the spirit of constitution is to obey court orders and to obey the will of the people, then the speaker would just declare that Azimio is a majority. But again, I was asking myself, why is that not happening? And I think there are two reasons. One is that the majority run the House business. They decide which bills come to Parliament, or they make their way to Parliament, and which bills can be dropped out of. There are bills that never see the light of the day in Parliament, and that's what the majority do. They kill some bills and they push for other bills. And you see, if Wetangula would have declared Azimio as the majority, what would stop Azimio from bringing a bill of no confidence to the president? They would impeach the president any moment.
Yeah.
And so that is one reason I believe it will take anything to keep Kenya Kwanza as the majority, even if it includes disobeying court orders. Because if Azimio becomes the majority, as declared the majority in Parliament, then what stops them from impeaching the president? Nothing. They just pass the motion and impeach the president. They just need a simple majority vote, and the president is out. And so that's one fear. The president would have allowed this to happen, but he called for a meeting and had a meeting with his legal team, and then Wetangula came up with his decision on Wednesday and said Kenya Kwanza is still the majority. They cannot open that can of worms. Number two, what happens to all the decisions that have taken place in the last 2 years if Azimio is declared the majority, which means everything that has been taking place the last 2 years has been illegal? So what happens to finance bill? What happens to all the laws that have been passed in Parliament? It's just another area that you don't want to go to, because that is like sending the country into a constitutional crisis.
All right.
And then there's this also the issue of who won the presidential elections in 2022. That discussion will just pop up. It will pop up. How can the president win and lose the majority? I mean, it will bring up all kinds of...
But it is possible. It is possible to win the majority.
It is possible, but
yeah.
I'm saying it will bring up that discussion, of which it is a discussion that was done and dusted. And nobody wants to begin going back to 2022 and start digging up. And there's a good argument over the same. Azimio said they went to court and contested the election results that declared President William Ruto as the president-elect then. And when the Supreme Court made its ruling, they disagreed with it, and they had to live with the ruling. Why is it so hard for Kenya Kwanza to do the same? You see, these are questions that many people are asking. And there's also the last one. The same High Court found that Moses Wetangula is still the Ford Kenya party leader. And he has been working as a speaker and a party leader of a political party for the last 2 years, of which the Constitution is expressly, it's illuminated, it's shining out there, speaking in rainbow colors. That is illegal. But who wants to talk about it? Who wants to begin that conversation? I don't know if it's Wamboka that I saw who said nobody should touch the speaker because that's the only seat the Mulembe nation has. You see the argument. It's not based on the Constitution. It's based on betrayal. It's based on interest. As long as politicians have interest in something, then they'll just push it. They don't care about the constitution. Yeah.
Yes, you said that it is the people of Kenya or the voters who decide who the majority is.
Yes.
And in the 2022 ruling, Speaker Wetangula based his argument of declaring Kenya Kwanza as majority on the defection of some of the members of parliament from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza. But the court went ahead and said, just as you said, it is the Kenyans who decide who the majority is through the tickets that they got those seats from. After the ruling of the court saying that the Speaker of the National Assembly used a different approach this time to say that Kenya Kwanza is the majority, insisting that the members who defected from from Azimio, they don't have a party. That is the argument that he had, saying that based on that, it means that Kenya Kwanza is, because the MPs who defected are from Azimio, which means that the numbers of Azimio has gone down. Do you think that if Azimio decides to go to court and use these contradictions against the speaker, will hold waters?
You see, why freeze the 15 members of parliament just because you want to be the majority? Why freeze them? They belong to a political party. There's nothing like they don't do. Have you, if you go to the registrar of political parties, you'll find that those members belong to a political party, and that political party belongs to a coalition, and that coalition is Azimio. It's as simple as that. So this is just goalpost shifting, and it doesn't make any sense. Like I said, as long as they get what they want, they don't give a damn about the constitution. They don't care about it. As long as you know, they get their interests you know, fulfilled, that's it. This is not even a discussion. It's so open. It's so clear. You can't just wake up and freeze members of parliament. These 15 are no longer there. We don't know where they are. What about those who left with Wamunyoro? Are they also frozen? They were in UDA. There are so many. Are they also frozen? You see, this is the irony of the leadership that we have in this country. In my opinion, I think this is the worst parliament that has ever existed in the history of our country. I think history will have a very bad place for this parliament, from the leadership to the last person. Because what is this at the end of the day? It is possible to have the executive in power and have the minority on the side of the executive. It is not a must that if you're the president, you must have the majority in both houses. Sometimes, even in the US, that's not how it usually works. Sometimes you can have the majorities, and other times you can't have the majority. And I think the Constitution of Kenya should veer off towards that direction, that if you have the executive, for example, you are the president and you have your party has formed government, then in parliament you should be the minority, so that the checks and balances can actually work. So you don't pass any bills like the way you want, you know, you don't steal money the way you want. Because you look at some of the rulings in parliament and it's sickening. Even where the constitution, like this ruling by High Court, surely you don't even need to explain it to a nursery kid. How do you explain to a nursery kid that people went to vote and decided that we're going to have the majority as Azimio? And then you now bring in what the speaker is saying. At some point he says they shifted from one coalition to another. The court says no, they did not shift. They belong to that coalition. Kenyans elected them on that ticket. And then you come and shift the goal and say, no, they are frozen somewhere. We don't know where they belong. So Kenya Kwanza will continue being the majority. It doesn't make sense at all. It only makes sense to them because of their interests. Like I said, what will stop Azimio from impeaching President William Ruto if they become the majority? And worse, if Raila Odinga loses the AU seat, they will simply kick President William Ruto out with a simple majority. It's possible. And so the interest here is that they must safeguard the presidency. They must safeguard the presidency. What if Azimio just decides to act the way Kenya Kwanza has been acting, passing bills and, you know, giving flimsy reasons for passing those bills? What if, you know, those are things that they're trying to safeguard. When you critically look at it, it makes sense. Then when you throw in the constitution, it completely doesn't make any sense. And so if only this country, we had leaders who understood that it is the people who make decisions and not them, and that they have delegated powers, then we would have a country that is moving. But right now, as we are here, all that is taking place in Parliament is pure politics based on interest, betrayal, and too much suspicion. And we don't know what Azimio is planning. We don't know what Kenya Kwanza is planning. Azimio right now is talking of joining Wamunyoro. What is it? Is it because of anger? We don't know exactly what is going on. Now that Gachagua was impeached, are they focusing their energies on impeaching the president? Are they looking for a way of kicking out the president too? And this was a sure way. And the battle is still on. We don't know if they will win. There's this issue. What the speaker can do, for example, in the issue of him being the political party leader of Ford Kenya and a speaker at the same time, he can just, write to the courts and provide evidence and say, I'm not the speaker of, I'm not the political party leader of Ford Kenya party. And these are things he can correct so fast, because there could be another trick. This could be the president's way of setting up Moses Wetangula. And trust you me, Azimio is not happy with Moses Wetangula. They revenged on Gachagua, and they will eventually revenge on Moses Wetangula. They will kick him out. That is the plan.
We will talk about
that is the plan.
About the impeachment plan. But I think let's have a look at what the Azimio members of parliament said moments after Wetangula declared that Kenya Kwanza is still the majority, even after the court said that no, it is the Azimio coalition.
This is not the end. We have withdrawn our members from the House Business Committee, and that's not the end.
Let us respect court orders. Court orders are not supposed to be debated and a question put in the House on court orders.
It is going to be messy, it is going to be noisy, and it's going to have casualties. I promise. And we can see it is getting smelly. Already.
Majority party in parliament is decided through the sovereign will of the people. It is only in Kenya where majority party and minority party in parliament is decided through defections. So when you defect from one party to another, you add numbers to the other one, and without consulting the people who elected you. Secondly, the contradictions in the speaker's rulings, I want to point them out. Initially, in his first ruling that was passed by the court, he ruled that the 14 members who are in UDM and those other parties, he gave them to Kenya Kwanza, as you remember. Today he has turned around again saying they are not in any party. They are in purgatory. They are held up somewhere. Nobody knows where they belong to. Purgatory, yes. So it just shows you how numbers are being crafted from one side to another, just to make sure that certain group are the majority party in parliament. The other day he made a ruling that Jubilee party is not part of Azimio. Today he has made a ruling that Azimio is Jubilee is part of Azimio. He has confirmed. And we have been telling him Jubilee has not left Azimio. Today he has confirmed again Jubilee is part of Azimio.
These judges are raising very serious fundamental issues. They are raising issues relating to violation of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. And you remember we impeached someone here because he violated the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if this matter is not addressed, we are going to have a constitutional crisis.
All right, members of the Azimio coalition, they are members of parliament who stormed out after Speaker Moses Wetangula ruled that the Kenya Kwanza coalition is still the majority in the National Assembly. And also to that, we've seen the video of Janet Mohamed saying that if this matter is not addressed, we are going to have a constitutional crisis. Bushebe Jr., do you think so? Are we going to have a constitutional crisis?
Constitutional crisis can only be declared by constitutional lawyers and people who are experts in matters constitutional. But this is a political show. I don't think it will amount to so much of a constitutional crisis, given the fact that the court has pronounced itself. The speaker is talking, Azimio is talking. There's still so many avenues, to discuss this. This is the way a system communicates. Yeah. One system says this, the other system says that. Then at the end of the day, there'll be a resolution. So I think it's just a political showdown that will have repercussions, political repercussions, such as maybe impeachment of the speaker, and losing your brand as a political leader, coalitions falling, a fallout between Azimio and UDA. Yeah. Those are the implications. Those are things that are going to perhaps maybe happen. But really, constitutional crisis, where I don't foresee that, unless on this issue of the speaker having has refused to relinquish his position as Ford Kenya party leader. That is a violation of the constitution. And I think there's a punishment for that. And yeah, he has to relinquish one position. Either he has to stop being the speaker, or he has to stop being the Ford Kenya party leader, one of the two. But whether he'll be punished for holding the two positions for the past 2 years, I don't know. But I don't foresee a constitutional crisis.
All right. Well, you're watching PLG Politics, Leadership and Governance. Bushebi Jr. is here in studio, helping me unpack the political scenes in the country, what is happening in terms of politics, leadership and governance here in the country. Remember, you can talk to us. Our studio number is 0746999841. You can text, call, or WhatsApp that number. Assuming the courts continue to uphold Azimio's majority status, because they say that they will opt for further action against the ruling by Speaker Moses Wetangula. What are the political options? What are the political options available for Kenya Kwanza and Azimio to resolve this deadlock?
Azimio is a majority in the House, and they have to fight for that position. It's not given. Kenya Kwanza is not going to give them that position. See, the way ODM is pushing for this thing is a bit, childish. They're just playing. I don't see any form of seriousness. I'm not seeing the Orengos type. I'm not seeing, the politicians that really, Junet and his team, they are just jokers. Because this is a matter the High Court has already pronounced itself. You just go for it. Take it. This is not a matter where you go and beg. It is your position. It belongs to you. And here you're being played like kids. And this is going to go round and round until 2027. And Kenya Kwanza is so good at this. Keeping the Azimio dancing. See how they have been dancing all through. 2 years zikaisha. Wakidance to muziki ya Ruto. And he will keep them dancing like that. They're not serious. Because this is theirs. Constitutionally, their position. It's the position of Azimio. They are the majority. But you look at the way they're approaching it, they're just dancing around.
The speaker said that it is the Speaker of the House who decides, who gives the final decision. Maybe they're just respecting the decision of the
So you can respect the decision of the Speaker, but you can't respect the decision of the High Court. So who checks the other? If the Parliament, how many laws have been passed in Parliament and they have gone to court and they have been quashed? There are so many. So what is so different? That's why I'm telling you, Azimio is just playing games. It's so serious. If Junet and his team and all these guys really wanted to be the majority in the House, they would be. They would be. Wetangula would have been sued by now. Somebody should have gone to court to sue him. I mean, how can somebody operate as a political party leader and at the same time the Speaker, and you're busy there saying, nay, aye. And the person leading that choir is both a political party leader and a speaker at the same time. The Constitution disallows that. It's a violation of the Constitution. The same person has declared Kenya Kwanza as the majority, a violation of the Constitution. The court has pronounced itself with finality. The only thing that can be done is for Moses Masika Wetangula to appeal, not to come and lecture the members of parliament on who should declare who is the majority and stuff like that. And you're busy there just, enjoying it and giving press conferences. By now, the speaker would be in court. That's why I'm telling you, these people are just joking. The Azimio side is the side that was elected as the majority as per the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. Hizi vitu zingine ni games tu. Ni politics. Na who cares? Kenya Kwanza endeleeni kabisa. Moses Wetangula is a smart politician. He's just playing these guys to the end. So si ni siasa. Nao ni wanasiasa. So mwenye anacheza siasa mzuri wacha acheze. Because you cannot go and beat Wetangula and say I've come here to beat you because you are a political party leader and also a speaker. No, you go to court, argue your case, the court pronounces itself. So what next? You go back to court and say the speaker has refused. And then the court will say jail that speaker. Let that speaker come here and explain why he's still the political party leader and at the same time he is the speaker. Let the speaker come and explain the numbers that he keeps throwing out and freezing some members of parliament and saying they don't belong anywhere. Let him come to court and explain that to the judges. That's why I'm telling you, these guys are just dancing. That is the way the system is supposed to be functioning. But issue tu ya kusema tunaenda wa Munyoro, sijui tunatoa press conference, mara sijui tunafanya ni, it won't work. This is a framework to deal with these issues. That's what I'm telling you. ODM, they're just jokers. Any jokes.
Let's now talk about something that you were about to talk about moments earlier, the impeachment of Speaker of the National Assembly, which has been a discussion that has been coming up time and again, and we've seen even Emilio Odhiambo during the Tuesday session when the parliament resumed its sittings. He asked the speaker to step down first because he was acting as a speaker and at the same time the party leader of Ford Kenya Party, which is against the constitution, because we know that if you are allied to a party, it means that you will not issue a judgment.
Yeah, you won't be impartial.
You'll be biased.
Yes,
and even if we go by the judgment where he declared Kenya Kwanza as the majority, Ford Kenya is also part of the Kenya Kwanza. So that is one of the bases that the members of parliament are saying that Speaker Wetangula should resign. But could Speaker Wetangula face a motion of no confidence, realistically, if the members of parliament decide to do so? And what will be the grounds for it? Is it possible?
You know, that question sounds like you're asking me, can you impeach yourself? Speaker belongs to Kenya Kwanza, and he's even the party leader of Ford Kenya. What motion of no confidence will even see the light of the day in parliament? It won't happen. The only communication that can bring sanity in this matter is explicit communication from the court directing Speaker Moses Wetangula to resign, either as a political party leader of Ford Kenya or as the speaker, because of the reasons of violation of the constitution. Number two, it is to give an explicit order that Speaker Moses Wetangula declares Azimio as the majority in the House. That is what Azimio should be fighting for. But there is absolutely nothing, no motion. I've told you the majority side is the one responsible on deciding which bill, which motion sees the light of the day. The House business is run by the majority side. The minority will only have their say. The majority will have their way. And that is the democracy of Kenya.
So you're saying if Kenya Kwanza remains the majority, then it is hard.
It won't happen. It won't happen. Because the best the minority can do is walk out. So what? We keep walking. Johnny Walker. Keep walking. That does not stop the majority from passing bills and motions and conducting business. They still go ahead and do it. That's why I'm saying the system, the checks and the balance has to be brought in by the court. And the court cannot just do it by itself. Someone has to go to court and argue their case and say, hey, listen, this is what is going on in Parliament and we need clarification based on the Constitution. Give an explicit order for A, B, C, D to take place because this is the only way sanity can be restored. And the judges will look at the matter and decide accordingly. And they will say, we are giving this order and we are giving this order and this order. And even the speaker said it. There is no order that I should declare Azimio the majority. So as long as there is no order, he can create his own order. He's the speaker. He can decide. He stands up and says, I'm freezing 15 members of parliament. Now you're still the majority, Kenya Kwanza. Because the court did not ask him explicitly to declare Azimio as majority.
It just issued a rule.
Yeah, it just said he violated the Constitution. So what next? So the Azimio side should go to court and obtain orders that explicitly commands the speaker to declare that Azimio is the majority. Number two, that the speaker should relinquish one of the positions, either the political party leadership of his party, Ford Kenya, or he should vacate the office of the speaker. Until that happens, in siasa.
All right. Let's talk about Kimilili, Member of Parliament, Honorable Didmas Barasa. He talked on Thursday and he said that ODM members of Parliament have begun behaving as if they already know the outcome of AUC elections, insinuating that ODM is behaving as if Raila Odinga is going to lose the elections. Do you think that ODM is behaving as if they already know the outcome of the AUC elections, that it's going to go against Raila Odinga, or are they just trying to get their position that they really deserve?
It's even the so-called political leaders or the MPs, particularly the one you've mentioned, I'm 100% sure, including even the ODM members, nobody knows for sure whether Raila Odinga will win or lose the AU seat on 15th in Addis Ababa. There are indicators showing that Raila Odinga might win. Yes, he stands a good chance to win. But nobody knows whether he will actually win, because it's not, the dynamics are not the same as Kenya's elections. There are so many, there are stakes in AU held by European Union, ECOWAS, IGAD, and all EAC, East African Community, all these organizations, they have vested interests, including China, they all have vested interests in AU. And so it's not campaigning and Raila Odinga meeting all these heads of state is 1% of what is really required to win that seat. You can have the best of campaigning and PR and take photos and have discussions, but at the end of the day, it's the interests of all these agencies and bodies and heads of states that really matter. And so saying that ODM is behaving as if they already know the outcome, I think it's not that they already know the outcome. I think the best way to put it is they are behaving in preparation for anything.
All right.
Yeah, it's not
Double
that.
chance.
Yeah, it's a double chance. If you look at what how ODM has been doing its politics in the country, is in such a manner that they have 50% of the ODM behaving as though they support the government. Then they have the other 50 behaving as though they are totally against the government. So ODM is double playing this politics. And so right now, they are just doing all this madness in preparation for any outcome. And Raila Odinga said it. He said, if I win, mambo fiti. If I lose, mambo fiti. In short, he's saying, we are ready for either a win or a loss. And so I think the best way to put it, maybe the legislator would have put it, is ODM is behaving in preparation for any outcome. Right now, they are already set. They have already set the ground. If Raila Odinga wins,
just 2 days before the highly anticipated African Union Commission chairperson elections, some reports have emerged indicating that Djibouti's foreign minister Mahmoud Ali.
If Raila Odinga loses the AU position, and that is already being played right on our faces. They have already set the ground. The court ruling that they are the majority, and if they are denied that majority, perhaps maybe they won't even go to court. They'll choose to go the political way. Join someone like Rigathi Gachagua, Akina Fred Matiang'i, Akina Maraga, and the rest against Kenya Kwanza. So they have already set that ground. That listen, you have to make sure Raila Odinga wins this thing. Because if he doesn't, this is what is going to happen. That's the message ODM is sending. We are going to turn against you. And we have the grounds to do that. So Raila Odinga is a genius in politics, my friend. And he has already set up that ground, ready for that divorce. If he wins, you already know what's going to happen. I'm on record saying, I suspect, you never know. If UDA continues to disintegrate and die at the rate that it's dying right now, maybe President William Ruto and his running mate, they might just decide to run on an ODM ticket. I can't rule that out. It might happen. Because if UDA doesn't have numbers, and you need numbers to win elections, then what do? And you still need the majority in the House. And you know very well UDA cannot give you the majority anymore. So what's going to happen? That simply means, I'm suspecting, it's a 1% chance, that kama mbaya, Ruto asimame kwa ticket ya ODM. Na running mate akue Gladys Wanga. And at the end of the day, they will win majority seats in both houses. So it's not an easy mathematics. It's not a 1 + 1 is equals. It's almost like calculating it's like the mathematics of how you'll get to mass. You know, it's so complicated because everybody is holding their cards, you know, right on their chest. You don't know what Raila is thinking. You don't know what Ruto is thinking. Because right now, as you're speaking, it is true that President William Ruto is running this country at the mercy of Raila Odinga. His legitimacy is 100% based on Raila Odinga. You remove Raila Odinga from the equation of Kenya Kwanza government, the legitimacy flies with Raila Odinga. Because already the government has already lost the narrative on the ground. Number two, the Gen Zs went to the streets and they eroded the legitimacy of President William Ruto's government. It is Raila Odinga who came in to restore the legitimacy of President William Ruto's government. So his government currently is running at the mercy of ODM. And that is why ODM is pushing and telling the president, you know, you must make our boy win. he must win the AU seat. If he doesn't win, we have grounds to delegitimize you, to send you home in 2027. Because you are running at our mercy. That is the message that is being sent. So hii karakta ya ODM ni wenye wameanza siasa juzi ndio wanapata mshtuko wa roho ODM wakibehave hivi. This is ODM. Now this is the real ODM. ODM wanaweza kukusumbua akili. That is why every president has to tame Raila first. You have to tame ODM first before you can rule this country. ODM usumbua. And Raila Odinga is an experienced politician. He's the senior most experienced politician. Ni nini huyu mwanaume hajui about siasa in Kenya? Ruto hata hatoshi Raila. Raila is a veteran in politics. A graduate, a PhD holder of politics from the University of Moi, University of Oginga his father, University of Kanu, University of LDPs, UNDPs, what P, Kibaki P's, whatever. I mean, what is it that this man has not seen? Mtu amecheza siasa intercontinental, ballistic politics. And so he knows how to maneuver. Utapiga tu kelele yako. Vile Kenya Kwanza came into power, wakakuwa na moto sana, choma, iba makondo, fanya nini. He was just watching. And he said one thing and people laughed. He said, we wachana na Ruto, mimi namjua. Hii ni kelele anapiga tu atapoa. I think ilikuwa kwa matanga fulani walikutana. And Gachagua at that time was something else. Naambia wewe sikia. Hii mambo ya Ruto mimi najua atakimbia apige kelele na atapoa. Hiyo kumaanisha huyu tunashikia tu hapa mbele. Hakuna mahali anaenda. So Raila knows, and Raila, they shouldn't joke with Raila Odinga in this matter because they are running at the mercy of Raila. That is why, have you seen the energy the government has put in just trying to make sure that Raila Odinga becomes the AU chair? Because they know Ruto sifala. Ruto anajua ba. Anajua huyu mwanaume asiposhinda hii AU, mimi niko kwa tabu. Yeah.
Yes, that brings us to the discussion of the AUC race, where Raila Amolo Odinga is set to contest. The elections will be held on February 15th, 2025. And to be elected as the AUC chairperson, Raila Odinga must secure at least 2/3 of the votes from the 55 member states through secret ballot process. The requirement underscores the competitive nature of the elections and the head of broad support across the continent. And Raila Odinga, as we all know, has been actively campaigning for the position, recently concluding a tour that included diplomatic visit to Burundi. He expressed gratitude for the support he received and his campaign, and emphasized the importance of unity and collaboration among African nations. So Raila Odinga, the elections will be held on 15th in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on 15th of February 2025. Bushebe Jr., what factors do you believe will influence Raila Odinga's chances of winning the AUC chairmanship, considering his political experience and the current political landscape in the continent?
Raila Odinga comes from East Africa. So, basing on the policy of rotational leadership at the AU, the East Africa is supposed to produce the chairperson this time round. And that's none other than Raila Odinga. Number two, he has already done a good campaign through his campaign secretariat team and convinced close to 28 heads of state who have promised to support him. He needs a majority of 33 heads of state, so 33 votes. He's at 28. And we don't know who they are. They have not been revealed, but you can do your mathematics a little bit and find out that Raila Odinga is close to 2/3, and he might win the whole thing by the first round. And About qualifications, that is an open secret that Raila Odinga qualifies. His academic credentials have been disputed locally quite a lot. The most discussed academic credentials, I think, is those of Raila Odinga, where there have been allegations that he doesn't even have classmates, primary school classmates. There's no one you've ever say. Have you ever heard anybody saying that I went to school at class 5 with Raila Odinga? You never heard about that. There's a lot of controversy regarding his primary education. But again, during that time, the degree then, the degree now is equivalent to the certificates that they used to give, especially the one that he got, so-called mechanical engineering certificate in Germany, equivalent to a degree today. And so the education system was a bit different then. Hizo ndo siku mtu alikuwa anamaliza class 7 na anakuwa headmaster. So see kama saizi where you go to PhD. Those are days when a child would get a PhD in the US just because you've invented something and you know, stuff like that. So hakukukuwa na that structure ya education that is so defined like the ones that we have today. Of course, things are changing even right now. There are degrees that people are getting through YouTube tutorials. There are people spending good time huyo mwenye alikuwa anatupa Javel, Julius Yego, you know, such like people who learn things. So things are changing. And so perhaps maybe one day Julius Yego might want to run for presidency and they say we need a degree. He might produce that and say it's equivalent to that. So that's almost like what happened with Raila Odinga. And he has quite a number of honorary degrees also given to him. When it comes to experience, it goes without saying Raila Odinga is the most experienced, I think one of the most experienced political figures in Africa. And a senior most for that matter. He's been through all the liberations in the continent of Africa, and he has been involved in dispensations, democratic dispensations across Africa. He understands the landscape, both geographically and geopolitical landscape of Africa. And you can tell that by the speeches he gives, you can tell that by the networks that he holds, you can tell that by the respect that he commands internationally and even continentally. And I think with his ability to lead, ODM is turning 20 years. And that shows that it has been under a very strong leadership. And so with qualifications, you look at Raila Odinga, and he's been a presidential candidate for quite a long time. In 2007, he won that election, but he was denied. And the way he handled the whole matter, you know, agreeing to a handshake and Nusumkate government, and the way, I think Raila Odinga is the only politician who's remained relevant throughout his life. And how he does it, nobody even understands. So that alone should make you respect the man. And so it is every Kenyan's prayer, not every Kenyan's, but most Kenyans' prayers are that Raila Odinga, at least this time, wins the AU chairmanship position. And I think he stands a high chance of winning. Now he's running against Richard Randriamandrato, he's running against Mahmoud Yusuf of Djibouti. And his main competitor is the Djibouti candidate, who has only so far, you know, spoken to about 6 heads of state. But again, there's this equation of the Anglophone and, you know, these regions that speak French and stuff. They have never voted outside their own people, as long as they have somebody, you know. And that's where the Djibouti guy comes in, because he speaks French, he communicates, they vouch for him. And then there's the endorsements by, you know, some of the very influential figures for Djibouti candidate. I think even Musa Faki, I stand to be corrected, Musa, the outgoing AU chairman, at some point also insinuated in, showing support for Djibouti candidate. Then there's the issue of the Kenya's foreign policy, where at some point when Palestine, or when Hamas attacked Israel, is it October 7th, the famous October 7th, and Israel decided to retaliate, President William Ruto was so quick in issuing a statement in support of Israel. That simply means he's losing, it might affect the majority of the Islamic states. Because the moment you support Israel, you've lost it. So we don't know how that is going to play. It's a factor that will play, the foreign policy. Then there was the issue of, Burkina Faso. President Ruto was also quick in coming out to, condemn Traore. And of course, Burkina Faso, Guinea, I think Mali, and they have been suspended from AU. They won't be voting. I don't know if they will be allowed to vote, but they had been suspended. So I don't know if they will be. But it plays a role in these issues, in the liberation of African states from the colonial influence. And I don't even know what that means, because at the end of the day, AU is 99% sponsored by foreigners, the same wazungus wenye tunapigana now. So I don't even know how that is going to work out. So putting into context all these factors, still I foresee a win for Raila. He stands a chance, but he might lose. I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm not sure. It's a 50-50 thing. He might win, but he stands a good chance, because number one, this seat has to go to East Africa, not North. It has to go to East Africa.
So it's either Raila or the Djibouti candidate.
So there's no other way. It has to go to East Africa. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, blah, blah, blah. It has to, this is the time for East Africa. So that alone, can influence the heads of state to to obey or to enact the policy of rotational leadership in AU. So those are factors I believe that might give Raila Odinga the chance. But with Raila Odinga, for those of us now from Kenya who know him, Raila Odinga loses stuff at the doorstep. And so we don't know. What was the name of the one Uhuru fronted last time? We lost by 4 votes, and she was so close. Yes, Amina was so close, and she lost it at the last minute. Do you know why? Because Uganda decided to vote against us, and Uganda even said they won't vote for Raila Odinga. South Africa, I don't think they will vote.
Said that it will not vote for Raila Odinga.
Yeah, so that's why I'm telling you, it's a 50-50 thing. I foresee some little chance, some higher chance than Djibouti guy. But again, it's not a guarantee that Raila Odinga will win this thing. But he might win. So let's just keep our minds open for anything. He knows it. Yeah, he knows it. He knows it. That's why he said tukishinda sawa, tukishindwa sawa. But if he wins, congratulations in advance. Whoever wins, if Djibouti guy wins, congratulations. It's Africa at the end of the day. Yes.
And it's East Africa at the end of the day. Well, as we wind up our discussion here on PLG, how important is the AUC chairmanship for Raila Odinga's political legacy? We've known him since way back, since his politics in 1995, I think, or 1997, till now.
Since he was born.
How important is this chairmanship to his legacy as a politician, and what key issues do you think he should prioritize if elected to effectively lead the African Union?
This thing is just important to him and his family.
Not to Kenyans, not to anyone.
AU is a council of elders. Yeah, so it's not elected by the people of Africa. It's a body that it's run 100% by wazungu, and so it serves the interests of the bodies that I just mentioned, the EU, you got the oligarchs and the people who are doing business and stuff. It's a control unit. It's just a council of elders. It has no truth, and otherwise, if AU was a creation of Africa by Africans who contribute to it, fund it themselves, and adhere to its own policies and constitution, and not allow wazungu to impose what they want, then it will benefit Africans. But the truth of the matter is, if you go to this country, they were, mocking Kenyans and saying, I don't know why Kenyans have made this Africa Union a big issue. I said Kenyans love politics. Kenyans love politics in Kenya is like air. Kenyans just breathe politics. They say they have had UN Secretary General, they have had all these things, and they never benefited anything in any way as a country. So don't expect to benefit anything. It serves, this thing serves Raila Odinga's legacy, his family, and President William Ruto's re-election bid.
So it's
it's about two people. It's just about Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Because let me tell you, if Raila Odinga wins this thing, celebration will begin from JKIA. Then, and during that time, President William Ruto will be there to consolidate the supporters of Raila Odinga for re-election 2020. I'm telling you, it's going to be a celebration of a kind. If he wins, it will start from JKIA, go to Nairobi, go to Kisumu, go to Kisii, and that now will form the basis for the president's campaign for re-election. So they will celebrate this thing in every stronghold of ODM. And in all those strongholds, President William Ruto won't miss, because he will be there to make sure that he consolidates the ODM votes. And that's just it. It's just for Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Hizi zingine ni kizungu mingi, zile tunaongeaga tu, lakini hiyo ndio ukweli wa maneno. Hii kiti haiwezi benefit mtu yote anything. It will just benefit the two.
All right. The seat will not benefit you. It is for the interest of the two politicians. That is what Bushebe Jr. has said. All right, we've come to the end of this discussion, PLG Politics, Leadership and Governance. My name is Rida Kerim Chebet. Thank you so much for keeping it here. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your viewing.